morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I am John Beckman, Professor John Beckman, Dr. John Beckman, U.S. Senate GOP primary candidate in the state of Alabama. Vote for me March 3rd. Woo! So, today we're going to talk about the last night's Democratic debate. My thoughts on it. First of all, my thoughts on it are not important because the people in that crowd are crazy lunatics. They're cheering for the craziest stuff. So what I think about it is not going to be what the actual Democratic Party thinks about it. But I'm just curious I'm interested to just share what I think anyway, because these are the people that we will be running against. But first, let's everybody get coffee in their cup. Let's do this together. Let's get a drink. Make sure it smells good. Make sure you want to drink it. Hold it up. Let's do a citation to the simultaneous libation of Scott Adams. Cheers. Okay, let's talk about it. I was just taking notes the whole time. You got, oh yeah, okay, let's do another sip then if you got yours. All right, cheers. All right, that's awesome. Okay, so I took notes the whole time. And I just have kind of compiled my notes, and I'll just kind of go through and I'll say some of the things. The first thing is that format. I will say this, that format, that was like rapid fire trivia questioning. I don't like that format. I wish they would force them to really evaluate how they're going to do certain things that they say they're going to do, because it's actually impossible. But that format is, what they do is they memorize set topic answers. And every time they know they're going to get a question about diversity, they know they're going to get a question about taxes, and then they just have these memorized answers that are 30 seconds long, and then they just spit out these answers. So I hate that format. But okay, so Bernie, let's talk about Bernie. Bernie had one line. He said every poll that he's looked at has him winning against Donald Trump. And as soon as he said that, I thought that's the dumbest comment I've ever heard, because every poll had Hillary Clinton winning and she completely lost. Every poll was wrong in the last election. Polling is not like what it used to be. And as somebody actually said that, so I thought that, and then one of the other candidates actually said that to him. But the person who said that back to him was more of a moderate. So that guy was just completely not liked by the crowd. But when Bernie said that, I was like, that's the dumbest thing. So hopefully Bernie gets nominated and thinks that he's going to win because of the polls. Bernie was higher energy though. Bernie was the highest energy of the pack, I think. Did not like Bernie though. Beto O'Rourke, that guy. This is the first time I had ever heard him speak. Every time he talks, he's like the hellfire preacher on campus. If you walk around on college campus, there's always the preachers that go there and they tell everybody how they're going to hell, because they're that's what Beto O'Rourke is like. He's everything he talks about is gloomy, is doomy, is apocalyptic, and the tone of his voice, he goes into this cadence he's lecturing to you. It's the most it's so painful to listen to. Some of the things that he said Texas is a battleground state. Okay, that's bullshit. So here's the funny thing is, so when he was running, he ran in an off-year election. So any state can be a battleground state in an off year. So for instance, in our state, in Alabama, Doug Jones, sure, it was a battleground for Doug Jones, but that was a very, very strange election in Alabama, where we had a primary that nominated somebody who was Roy Moore, who was basically everybody hated. So he got nominated. And then it was an off-year election, so turnout is always lower on an off-year election. So just because you can win in a state on an off-year election doesn't mean that Texas is a battleground state. Especially in the MAGA, when Trump is on the ticket, Texas is going to be super red. So his comment that Texas is a battleground state, that's bullshit. Let's see. Oh, so he said, so Beto O'Rourke, everybody when the climate change stuff came up, everybody said climate change is going to kill the earth in 50 years. They said 2050. And then Beto O'Rourke went up there and he was basically actually, I'm going to take a stance that's even more radical than everybody else. You're going to be dead in 10 years. He said, I do have some MAGA hats, but today I'm wearing my socialist hat because we're talking about the Democratic debate. That's why I'm wearing this hat. Anyway, but he literally said, you're going to be dead in 10 years. He said, we will all be dead if we don't solve this problem in 10 years. That was the dumbest thing I had ever heard. Amy Klobuchar, she's from Minnesota. I think she's a senator. She's a senator from Minnesota. The only thing I remember about her is her face looked like it was Botox and surgery. Like every time she like talked, it was like her face was like stiff and she like couldn't move her face. If you've ever seen, I forget her name, but she's an actor in the Star Wars. She just died. She plays Princess Leia. When they cast Princess Leia, the old version of herself in the newer Star Wars movies, her face looked exactly like Amy Klobuchar. It's like so Botoxed up that every time she talks, like nothing on her face like move. Yes, Carrie Fisher. Every time. Thank you. This is like a. You guys help my brain. Carrie Fisher. Yeah. If you look at Carrie Fisher's face in the new Star Wars movies, every time she talks like this, and she can't move her muscles in her face because she's so Botoxed. And I thought the same thing about Amy Klobuchar. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying that, but it was true. Okay, Elizabeth Warren. My impression of Elizabeth Warren was, I'm gonna get in trouble for this too. She was like a nagging mom. Okay, every time she talks, I could not, and I love my mom, but every time she talks, I could not help but think of my mom. Every time I would get in trouble, my mom would like call me on the phone and she'd be like every time I would stay out late, my mom would leave me a voicemail message on my phone and be like, John, where are you? Like, that was the impression that I got from Elizabeth Warren, is like the nagging mom. Or Rush Limbaugh used to call Hillary Clinton Nurse Ratched. So if you've ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, there's this really, really like mean nurse and so Rush used to say Nurse Ratched, and Warren gives that same impression. There's no way, I hope to God that Warren wins, because it would just be hilarious to watch Trump just annihilate her. But at least they had some diversity. At least they had a Native American in the lineup. That's my only comment with Warren. There's a guy who I had never seen before, Delaney. He was like the moderate. He was like the only one who had some sense of reason. He was an entrepreneur. Somebody made a comment how he had made like $65 million. When they said that, I was like, wow, okay, so that's a guy who I should actually just kind of like respect a little bit. But then he said the most reasonable things. And my impression from him was, if you ever watched the Democratic debates years ago when Trump ran, they had this guy named Jim Webb. Jim Webb was like a Marine he was like a blue collar Democrat Marine, and he had fought in the Vietnam War. And Jim Webb had reasonable positions, but then when during the debates, everybody would always ask Jim Webb, like, why are you even in this party? Because everything Jim Webb would say was like totally reasonable, and everything everybody else in the party would say was like these totally radical lunatic ideas that would get applause. So my comment was, Delaney is like the Jim Webb of this year. Like, he said some reasonable things, but everybody in his, like, he's too reasonable for the Democratic Party. They do not want reasonable stuff. Buttigieg. Okay, so the Buttigieg guy. When I first saw that guy, just in the news, like I'd see his pictures, I saw him pop up, saw just very, very little snippets of him. I originally was like, oh, I kind of like that guy. And then somebody made a tweet which is spot on. The more I watched of him actually speak, somebody said that Buttigieg is the one on that stage who has like the most resentment, and he hides it, and you can see it come out only in tiny, tiny little spots. So one of the comments he made was that, like, you're not a Christian if you don't believe in raising the minimum wage, and he said something about like scripture. Are you a Dem or a Republican? I'm a Republican. I'm running for the GOP, U.S. Senate GOP primary. But I'm smarter than all the Republicans. So I'm conservative to the core. So that's why I said in the beginning, my opinions on this are probably not going to be relevant to people who actually care about this debate, because I'm not a part of the Democratic Party. But this is for my own people. This is a conversation for my own people, just for us to make fun of these people because they're ridiculous. Anyway, Buttigieg has this like hatred. So he said something about like, you're not a Christian if you don't believe in like raising the minimum wage to $15 or $20 because it's in the Bible. Like, he said something like that. I don't know precisely what his words were, but he said that was what I heard. And that was like the most ridiculous comment. There's nothing in the Bible about minimum wage. Okay? And then he was also the guy who basically said this is what I heard, and this is what's important in politics, is it's not what you say, it's what people hear. And when Buttigieg was talking, what I heard was, if you voted for Trump, you are a racist, is what Buttigieg basically said. So he basically pegged half of the entire country as racist. Bernie tried that and had to cut out. Yeah, Buttigieg was the only person who actually made me like mad inside. Like everybody else was just kind of like crazy. And it was kind of like, I was kind of thinking it would be really fun to see Trump fight against these people. But Buttigieg was the only one who actually like made me mad. It was like, this guy's like straight up just lying to us. Okay, so just some of the comments. They all got a question about like who's the best to heal the racial divide in the country. And my first impression was none of these white people on the stage are going to be able to heal the racial divide. And they're proposing like reparations. Like why should, and this is somebody, so from my perspective on reparations, my ancestors were in Germany. Wait, can I ask you a question? And I would love to, yeah, okay, what's the question? Ask me the question. I'll take a sip while you're while I'm waiting for this question. Is Trump racist? No, he's not a racist. Trump was friends with Al Sharpton. Like, look at Trump's history. Trump grew up in Queens. Trump has always grown up amongst African Americans. Trump used to be friends with Al Sharpton. Before, the only thing, that was just the only attack that they found had an effect. Trump will call out anybody. I made a tweet like this. Trump is like Dirty Harry. Trump will attack anybody if they are bad. It doesn't matter what color they are. It doesn't matter what creed they are. Trump will attack you. So people who say Trump is a racist, they always give you the comment like, well, name a white community that Trump has degraded. He never degrades white communities. And I'm like, yes, he does. San Francisco. Like, Trump's been just as hard on Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco. Trump called Carly Fiorina a horse face. This is somebody on his own side. Trump makes fun of everybody. That's just his style. He's not a racist. These are just, the people who say that Trump is a racist are just people who like don't know how to like take an insult. They don't know how to like take a joke. It's like saying is Dave Chappelle, so first of all, I'm not going to talk about this issue on this Periscope. The people who, this is what I'll say about what this person just asked. There are crazy, lunatic idiots who support everybody, okay? There were crazy lunatics who supported Obama. There were crazy lunatics who support Bernie. There were terrorists who supported Bernie. There are crazy lunatics who support Trump. And to say that just because there's a tiny, tiny minority, they used to be Democrats. Oh my God, I'm not having this conversation. I'm just going to go through. Okay, so let's talk about the reparations. So everybody wanted the reparations. Everybody was in support of that. From my perspective, it's like, okay, my ancestors were in Germany when they had slavery in America. None of my ancestors were responsible for anything that happened in America in like the 1700s. So why should I like pay into reparations? Like it just doesn't make sense to me. And even Obama doesn't support reparations. And how are you gonna implement that? Like, are you gonna make Obama has mixed ancestry too. Obama is descended from people who owned slaves and people who were slaves. So it's like, are you gonna make Obama's like reparations bill cancel itself out? Like, how are you gonna implement that? Like, I just don't think that and somebody actually said this. Somebody said giving black people money is the best way to heal the racial divide. And I'm thinking like, is that really what? I don't think that black people want like a white savior to come in and give them money. I just don't think that that's what they want. Maybe some of them want reparations, but I don't think that like the way that they are talking about it, I don't think that that's a feasible system of doing that. And I don't think that that is going to be a healing force in the country for racial division. I think that's going to only create more racial division. Excuse me. Free education. I already did. Everybody there was like, oh, we need free education. I already did a whole movie on this. We already have free education. There's free education online on YouTube. You can go and you can take full courses from MIT, Columbia, Harvard, from me, online, on YouTube, okay? It's already free. That's not the problem. The problem is accreditation, is how do you give people credit for the self-acquired knowledge that they have? So they're not even talking about the right problem. They're lunatics. Somebody said they were going to give, I had no idea that this was in the Green New Deal. Somebody said that in the Green New Deal, they have a plan to give everybody who wants one a government job. How, like, that is never going to work. And even if they did that, like, that would destroy the country. We cannot give everybody who wants one a government job. Like, it's like, what are you going to have them do? Like, you're going to have them dig holes and then fill in the holes and then dig the hole again and fill in the hole. It's like, no, we cannot give everybody who wants a government job a government job. Somebody said they were going to double union membership. Like, so this was the best characterization of the debate. I'll end it here. This was a quote from one of the more reasonable Democrats. He said, everybody here is just proposing wish list economics. And that was essentially what you can boil this debate down to, is wish list economics. The final quote from Warren was, if you give me 2 cents, I can give you free healthcare, free education, free jobs. Like, she said, well, with 2 cents, all I need is 2 cents, and you give me free, and I'll give you all this free stuff. So it is, what they're doing, what they're proposing to do is impossible. And they're just pandering to their craziest loonies. It's wish list economics. I'll end there. If anybody else has any questions, I can take a question now.